Thank you. Is there any corrections or additions to the agenda? Need a motion for approve the agenda?
Make a motion to accept.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 5, comments from the public. No public here, so we're gonna just keep moving on. Written communications, I got one. Just says, "Hi Rex, thank you for working on the Gillis Park update. We voted and appreciate the opportunity to have input for this project. It was awesome for our grandkids." Gene and Doug Gilson. Anybody else have anything? Okay, we'll move on to 7, action on consent agenda, which consists of the Park and Rec Board regular meeting from February 20th and action on March and April expenditures. Any questions or?
I just had a question of curiosity on the expenditures.
Yep.
There was a, let's see, New London Buyer's Guide for $4,500. What is that?
That's the name of the company that prints our brochure.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought it might have been.
Yep.
And they are from New London?
They're out of New London, yep.
Okay.
It's a business that has been downsized quite a bit, so that's where we go for printing.
Okay.
Some places actually go across the state and do it in La Crosse and have them shipped all the way from there back over here.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I was a little surprised somebody in closer vicinity wasn't able to.
Not even
tackle
close
that.
dollar-wise, not even close.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question about the John Deere equipment, is that for the Gator that,
That is for the Gator, correct. That was purchased, ICE Implement was able to find us a 2017 Gator that another dealer had down in Waukesha, and so they were able to bring that up, and then we bought it through ICE Equipment. That was the dollar amount.
Okay. And the fence for $4,000, is that at the Ashwaubenon Lake?
That fencing, what,
It's up a little bit higher. Fortress fence,
are you in March or April? I'm sorry, Mark.
April. It's $4,175.
Oh, here it is. Yes, that was the fencing at Ashwaubenon Lake from the cafe going north,
Right.
replacing that, which was, I think it was original 74 fence. So we did it to the point that we felt it looked decent enough and that it wouldn't be so much as in the public eye.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not questioning the
Okay.
validity of it, just.
Yeah, no,
the location.
I'm actually happy to explain any of these expenditures. I think it's good that you guys look at them.
But you know what, we actually read this.
Yeah, it does kind of. I don't mind that at all.
Anything else?
What did we pay Logan Zills for? What did he do at the dance recital in April?
Oh, Logan,
Isn't he
our
sound guy or-
our normal employee called in that day who was going to MC the event and decided he wasn't able to MC that night. Like, he's a I think he was an umpire. He had some kind of a umpire training or something like that for the WIAA. And so that kind of left us in a lurch. And David could do it, but then there's no one to organize everybody backstage and move people around. So basically, David had Logan jump in and do that.
Excellent, great experience for him.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
We have motion is on the consent agenda.
Move to approve?
I'll second.
We have motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 8, action items. A, review and possible action on Gillis Park playground equipment bid. Sounds like we got a little dilemma.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a dilemma. You know, every playground equipment manufacturer has certain features, so it's tough to say I need a slide and this and that, because everyone is different. And I'll be honest, I mean, we work with all of these playground vendors. We probably, in fact, I know we have equipment from every single one of them in our parks. Many of them have multiple pieces of equipment out there, and so they're all good to work with. But like any business, sometimes they will try and give themselves an advantage. When I talk with each one of them, what I do is we talk about what type of equipment we want, we get a model going, we talk about the color, we talk about what features we want, and then what they're supposed to do is make that up, send it back to me, we kind of refine it a little bit, it kind of goes back and forth, and then that's what's submitted for everyone to take a look at. Well, some people, some of the manufacturers decided they would skirt a couple of those conversations and submit some stuff that was not talked about, which now all of a sudden makes what was submitted unequal in terms of size or height or in color. Because we're not going to get a circus tent, you know, red, white, and blue type of a thing, but, you know, that's what catches the public's eye more. And so it's frustrating like that. I mean, quite honestly, I could disqualify those when they come in, just based on that, because it's not what we had discussed. But I am trying to keep a good relationship with each one of them, because I work with them literally every year, because there's always things that need replacing on the playground equipment. So that being said, we had 6 playground designs submitted. And the one that is being recommended is the one that was submitted properly, as well as was one that garnered votes within the voting process. It was not the top vote getter, but it did garner votes, and that's the one from Gerber Leisure Products. Gillis Park, the Play World one, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth from the left, that was the top vote getter. And there's a couple things. We had the decking all lined up, we had the roof lined up, and they submitted something totally different from what we had talked about. Totally different, which again, now you're comparing apples to oranges, you know, when we submitted it. So I was a little frustrated in that respect. They're all nice designs. You know, one has 3.5-inch posts, that's the Gillis one, that's how they were able to stretch it out as far as they were, because they have a smaller diameter post. I had requested that the main post structures be 5-inch. They're more sturdy. You can get more kids on them, and they can be shaking the thing, and it's not going to go anywhere because of the sturdiness of it. So there's a couple factors involved. I'd be happy to get into it more if you want to dig into it deeper with me.
So
But my recommendation is Gerber Leisure Products, which is the first one on the left.
Which one is that in our packet?
Page 13.
I'm sorry, which page?
Page 13.
13, thank you.
13. It's actually page 12 as well. 12 and 13, it's just alternate views.
Rex, is the one that has the 3-inch post, is that the one that was the top vote getter?
Yep,
And
because they were able to stretch it out more.
which one is that?
3-inch posts means there's more money to do other features, so they were able to add more features onto it because they used a smaller diameter post.
Beth is asking which.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Beth is asking.
I'm sorry, is that?
That was the fourth one from the left.
Okay, I'm just trying to find some of our pages have page numbers. Is that on 16? Page 16, is that the one with the little rock climbing wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
What
I don't know. Looking at that rock climbing wall, I mean, to me, that doesn't add a whole lot.
We've
to
got,
how small it is.
we've got one at Mike Van, it looks cool, but I'll be honest with you, we've got one at Mike Van Park, and I don't see kids on it. I see kids on boulders, and I see kids on a lot of the rope-type structures.
Right.
But the rock climbing wall, you'd think it would be popular, but at least the one at Mike Van, I do not see kids on when I do see kids over there.
Mark?
What I consider strange is they all came in at exactly $35,000.
And that's how we wrote it. We want a $35,000 structure, so then people can, basically, to me, you get more value out of it that way, because then everyone's at that dollar amount, and who's willing to give an extra feature or two. for that amount.
But you really don't know.
I don't think the playground manufacturers like it that way, because then, but it benefits us to do it that way.
But you really don't know if you're getting $35,000 worth of equipment.
Oh,
If
I know, the staff knows, I mean,
if the supplier knows the amount that you're willing to pay,
yep.
he may determine to give you equipment that's less than $35,000 worth of value.
I will respectfully disagree with you on that, Mark. In terms of the playground equipment, I mean, myself and David and Mel and all of our staff have been to multiple trainings on that. I'm fairly well versed on different types of playground equipment, and all of those are definitely worth $35,000. I'm going to say that we get more than $35,000 worth of equipment by doing it the way we're doing it. Because they know, the manufacturer knows that they're competing against every other single mock-up, artwork type of a thing. So they're going to try and put as much stuff on there as possible for that value.
Rex, then it is your opinion that the recommended playground equipment, from your experience with dealing with all these playground equipments over the years, is the most structurally sound?
They're all going to be sound. It's just the 5-inch posts have always been, we've had less issues with the 5-inch posts, just because then the structure doesn't, you can get a bunch of kids on there at one time, and if they're rocking and shaking and having, and then all of a sudden, over the years, because of that movement, which is more apt on a 3.5-inch post, you're going to have more braces that snap. You're going to have more collars that break off where the bolts are. Not that you have major issues, it's just there's less ongoing maintenance with something that's more solid. I mean, I think that could go for anything.
This include installation?
Install is with us. Our guys will install it on our own. To have a company install it, you take the cost of the equipment and you add 1/3 of the price onto it, typically.
Okay.
And we could install any of these. Our guys have put in playground stuff now for probably, 15, 20 years. Including working with a lot of the companies on some of the bigger stuff like out at Sand Acres. So this stuff, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's fairly straightforward in terms of what needs to be done. Nothing here is so unusual that we wouldn't be able to handle it.
Well, the photos that you gave us obviously were provided by the various suppliers.
Yep.
When they do that, do they also, they must have some type of catalog or presentation that shows the individual structures along with the price schedule on them. For instance, let's take an easy one. The structure on page 12, so page 12, that shows simply two uprights with a cross beam, and it looks like something to hang on or swing on.
Yeah, each component has individual prices. I mean, they don't submit individual
Right,
prices to, I mean, that would be,
Right, I understand.
that's almost minutia in terms
Yeah.
of when you're having to deal with something like that.
Yeah, I understand that, but do they show pricing for those individual structures?
I'm still not understanding what you're saying.
So if they had a salesman coming in here and showed you a picture of that part that I explained, that I described there, where they say, this costs so much?
Well, for any feature on any of these equipment, they would look it up in their catalog if I wanted to add something more on, and they would have a price for that, yes.
Yeah. Do they show you those prices?
I
before they give you-
didn't ask for those prices when we submit them. I've never asked for those individual prices. Once in a while, depending on the budget, you know, if someone has something on, someone might submit something it's not part of a bid, but someone might say, you know, we've got this, and then it's like, well, we don't have enough money for that, what can you give us for this amount of money? And then they tell us, here are some different options that fall within that price bracket.
So if all the suppliers know that they're shooting for $35,000, there really is no competitive quoting on it then.
The competitive quoting is against each other because they know everyone's going to try and get the bid. So they're going to try and add on as many features as possible so that their product is picked over the other. Again, I guarantee you that each one of these is, if you were to bid one of these out and just went and say, how much is this going to cost? It's going to be more than 35.
I really like the variety of activities that it looks like the kids can engage in on that, on the Gerber leisure products. I mean, there's so many different things. There's even a slide that they can climb up. I mean, what kid doesn't want to climb up a slide?
They're all good designs.
They are.
They're all good designs, and quite honestly, for the top, at least the top three, I know we're looking at ones in the future. I'd be happy, you know, next year just taking design number 2. And you know what I mean? They're great designs, and like I said, I know all the sales reps, you know, just from going to the different conferences, and they do their calls, you know, every couple months, and they stop in, do you need this? And I call them for different parts. And they're all good companies, but like anybody else, they're trying to beat out their competitor when they submit designs, and some of them fudge a little bit. And that's where some of the issues came in on this one, is they
Well, then I don't know
didn't
that
exactly do it as they were supposed to, because they thought what they were submitting might garner more votes.
I don't know that we want to reward fudging.
I don't disagree with you. That's why I recommended Gerber, but again, we can do whatever one the board feels appropriate.
So the one you recommended is the one shown on page 13?
12 and 13.
And it includes all of those items?
It is it is correct. It is they're 5-inch posts. They have the roof on it, which was listed, something we talked about that we wanted to do. It has some rope features on it, and it's also got a larger space on the elevated area where multiple kids can just hang out and talk and sit down and do whatever. They're not going to be crowded up there in a smaller area like several of the suppliers submitted.
That includes all the items listed under A through G on the photo then?
Correct. Yep, it's here on the screen. So yes, all those items below are incorporated into that structure.
Do you have a motion on this?
I'd like to make a recommendation to choose the one by Garber.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I will try and tweak the process next year, as long as because this is going to come up.
Sure.
We will get playground equipment almost every year, you know, for some facility, because we've got, 23 parks and most of them have playgrounds. So
Does this get forwarded to
the process will be tweaked a little bit next year, and hopefully that will eliminate, there's always ways around things, but I'll try and.
Does this get forwarded to the village board then?
It does.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to 8B, discussion and possible action on co-sponsored disillusion plan. I know we talked about this at our last meeting, didn't we?
Yeah, there were several items added on, specifically on page 21. I'm trying to remember what was actually added on. I literally did it the day after we had our park board meeting, so it was fresh in my
It was the one
mind.
that I had recommended, and it was in option 2. And I believe it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe the 5th bullet down.
The continued non-compliance
Correct.
bullet?
Yeah, you are correct. That's one of the things that was added. the main item. So again, this is two options. This is if an organization wants to leave the village's umbrella as a co-sponsor organization on its own, it's the process to do that. It's also the option two is the process if the village, due to non-compliance, or something going on with the organization that doesn't fit in with the village's wishes / philosophy for working with the kids. It's also a way to say, you know what, you either need to change how you're doing it, or the village isn't going to do it, be a sponsor of your organization anymore. And then you can be a private organization and do what you want to. So it's a way to do that. But if someone decides, you know, that they want to leave us, it's more of some of these options that are in here, it's more of a check and balance to make sure that it's just not one or two or three people on a board that are trying to blow this up. You know, you're actually polling the group as a whole to decide what option they want.
So this plan, this what we're talking about is page 20 and 21. The rest of the stuff is all policy that relates to
Yes.
what we have in place right now.
Yep. Mr. Hess had asked to also try and put everything together, some of these other loose pieces
Okay,
that
I
we
just
have.
wanted to make
Yep.
sure.
Yep. So page 22, 23, and 24 are ready policy. And in a lot of these things, I try and put the date that that policy was adopted, so on and so forth. So the new stuff is on page 20 and 21. Dissolution of a co-sponsored organization.
And I also like the idea that we have included in that, should the board make a recommendation either way, or the village makes a recommendation either way, that the membership has a due process approach. So,
I guess the only question that I have, and I think I brought this up last time, but I'm not really sure, is if we have a situation where it would be under option 2, and the very last thing there is that the village would have the right to form a new co-sponsored organization in that sport or program.
Is that not in there, Beth? I remember
No,
you-
it's
in
there.
there.
It's there, but what's not there is the name of the continuing organization and how that would impact the village's ability to name its own organization. So, for example, if you had, let's say, a co-sponsored
Yep.
organization, Ashwaubenon Pickleball Association, and they are dissolved under option 2 because they don't want to be co-sponsored anymore, what happens with that name, Ashwaubenon Pickleball Association? Because number one, we want to make sure that people understand that the new organization is not the same as the co-sponsored one, because it's not co-sponsored anymore. And number two, if the village is going to create its own co-sponsored organization, you know, obviously we want our village name to be a part of that. And I'm not really sure how we make sure that there's no confusion if there's now 2 organizations, and how we reserve our right to continue our own co-sponsored if that's what we decide to do. I don't know if I'm expressing that very
so
well.
Beth, you would say that the organization that has been dissolved would not use Ashwaubenon as part of their name if they went private?
Or at least they couldn't say Ashwaubenon Pickleball Association. They'd
That's
have
what
to
I'm
come
saying.
up
They
with
couldn't
something
use
else.
Ashwaubenon.
Well, they could say the Pickleball Association in Ashwaubenon or
so
something
In
like that. You
Ashwaubenon,
know what
but
I'm
it wouldn't
saying?
be-
Yeah.
So how I might write that is, the name of the current organization shall stay within the village for potential formation of a new organization.
I think that makes sense.
The leaving organization will be required to procure a new name.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be a new name that's not going to be so similar that it's confusing to the public.
So instead of the Ashwaubenon Pickleball League, it would be like the
Pickleball are us.
Fusion Fire Pickleball or something like that, you know, something.
Something, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Just so that it's clear.
Yeah, they could name it whatever they want as long as they didn't use the name Ashwaubenon, which means then, would imply that it's being sponsored or somehow connected directly to the village.
So the leaving organization shall procure a new name that does not conflict or that does not conflict with the current name. I don't like the word conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
But does not.
Rex, do you want to just bring it back to the next meeting? This is something we're just working on anyways, right? Would that change?
It's pretty much ready to go except for whatever this, but if you don't feel we're ready, I can.
It's up to you guys. I mean, whether, if you want to see it, or do you want to just have them try to wordsmith it right now?
You know, I understand not wanting to use conflict, maybe something that is dissimilar enough so as not to be confused with a co-sponsored organization, because that's really what we're driving at.
Yep, I can, let me bring it back. I can bring it back, and I can look
I mean,
up in my thesaurus and find some words that.
Yeah, I
that
mean,
might
it's,
fit.
The village of Ashwaubenon doesn't have any exclusive legal right to the name Ashwaubenon, does it?
No,
don't think
it
so.
doesn't, I don't think. But we just don't want people to be confused.
Right.
is that okay, Rex? I mean, just bring it back?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that-
not,
I mean, it's
not a problem.
it's not something like we're trying to get this done in
No, I think we're doing this the right way. We're doing this before an issue happens.
Right.
So it's not like we're trying to get this in place because an issue is happening. It is just something we want to do to prevent an issue.
So, okay, so when we have all this stuff together and everything, just if we can just get this language, and then we'll have everything all together anyways.
Yep, I won't add on other stuff on those other 3
Okay.
pages, and we will highlight the new change.
Is that good?
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to 8C, discussion and possible action on Ashwaubenon Trail Project.
So there's been a lot of things happening with trails around the village, and it's probably the right time just to bring everyone up to speed on different potential trail projects that are being bantered about and discussed. So at least one there's a couple, as it says, there's a couple irons in the fire right now just about getting costing and things like that, so we have that on board as opportunities arise. So I'm going to just talk about the Main Street Trail. The Main Street Trail is part of the whole Southwest Trail system that we've got going on. The Main Street Trail currently goes from Packerland Drive on the south side of Main, and it goes from Packerland to Sandacres Drive, and then it stops, and then it goes south on Sandacres. So one of the things that we're trying to do is push that on Main all the way down to the traffic circles on 41. That's a fairly, it's a very busy road. There's a lot of truck traffic going on there. You don't want to be walking in the street, and you see fairly often people walking in the street trying to get out of the Sandacres, Misty Meadow neighborhood down to Festival and stuff like that. So we want to try and extend that trail down there. 2 challenges with that: it crosses a fairly good-sized creek, so it's going to need a pedestrian bridge. And then up by that giant black building on top of the hill, what is that, SparkNet, I think it's called? Up by SparkNet, there's some fiber optic relocation that would need to be done. We applied for a TAP grant through the DOT. That's a Transportation Alternative Program grant. We came in 3rd, which is out of the running because the first project was taking up a fair amount of money. The first project that got funded was also a Safe Routes to School project, which always gets the priority. So with that, and the second one was an extension of the East Bay Trail. I believe that's in Howard. East Bay, I believe, yep. So being in 3rd, I mean, that's a fairly expensive amount of money for that trail section, which the village cannot do on their own. So we were going to put that in the back burner. However, the DOT has a small, I don't say small, but a pot of money for projects that didn't finish within, the top 2 or 3 dollar amounts in each region, such as this. So now this is being considered for that pot of money. So We're still working on that, otherwise we would probably need to wait until 2020, 2021 to apply for that grant again, to make that happen. Which is still doable. Ashwaubenon River Trail, currently that goes from our, and the river trail is on page 28 in your packet. So if you want to follow along on that map. That goes from the marina to the south side of the Bay Harbor condominium. We're looking at extending that trail behind the Schneider National Truck Yard, the old truck yard, pedestrian bridge across the mouth of Ashwaubenon Creek, and then going on the waterfront for Ashwaubenon, potentially all the way to the De Pere Fairgrounds, depending upon how aggressive they want to get and whether Brown County and De Pere want to help chip in for this grant. We need costing on that, so we know exactly where we're sitting, so that when the opportunity comes to apply for grants, we can say this is what it's going to cost, so on and so forth. So we are contracting with Grafe. Grafe has been working on a lot of different bridge projects right now in northeast Wisconsin, including the big project down in Menasha, Oshkosh area, where those bridges are going across Lake Winnebago and some of the tributaries over in that area. So they're well versed in bridge projects. They're doing a costing exercise for us so that we have some costs on board.
Does any part of this project coincide with that other grant that we got going on down there right now?
What other grant do we get?
Wasn't there like $600,000 or something?
There's the NRDA JLRI grant that's at around 250, and no, that is strictly for wildlife preservation and invasive species removal.
Okay.
But it would,
Yeah.
this trail would bring you through that area where these improvements have
Sure.
been made. So more people would be able to see the improvements and enjoy the wildlife, especially if we did like a little fishing bump out or something like that on that pedestrian bridge.
Okay.
If nothing else, sets of benches to be able to view the wildlife. We're also, as part of the grant, putting in some fish shoals, some fish sticks and things like that in there to help some of the different species with their spawning areas, as well as osprey and heron holes.
Right. Okay.
That's the Ashwaubenon River Trail. So we are working with Grafe currently on that. Grant Street Trail. This shows up best on page 29 of your packet. Grant Street is the north-south street on the right-hand side. Excuse me, Sand Acres Drive is the north-south street on the right-hand side. In green on the bottom, that is Grant Street, going from Sand Acres to the west, which would be left all the way to Packerland. So that would be on the Ashwaubenon side of Grant Street. There'd be a couple odd parcels that were Lawrence, town of Lawrence, but they have already said that they would be willing to work with us on this particular project were we to get it or whenever we get it. And I also met with the Village of Hobart about a month ago and talked with their village administrator, their public works director, and one of their council ladies, excuse me. And they are bringing forth this month discussion on extending the Packerland Trail from Fernando to Grant. And that is what is shown in red. That where it starts up on the top, that is Fernando. That's where our current trail ends. So they would extend it from Fernando to Grant Street. So that would make a nice loop around for people to be able to use. Eventually Hobart wants to push the Packerland Trail all the way down to Hemlock Elementary, which is a fair ways down there. But first things first, this is the connection that needs to be made. So Hobart is discussing that, and then we are going to be getting some more specific costing for the Grant Street portion of the trail. And the earliest that we could probably apply for that, well, the earliest we could apply for that through the Recreational Trails Program or stewardship funds from the DNR would be 2019. But that's something else that we're working on. There might be, because of Grant Street, it's, what's it called, a rural designation. There's no storm sewer there, it's just like a ditch. And there's no plans to put storm water piping in there and covering that up and make it nice and clean. People like the rural atmosphere like that, so it's going to be staying that way. Because of that stormwater ditch, the trail has to be pushed back inland a little bit. And there are a couple of spots where it's going to be really tight, where we may need to get some right-of-way easement from someone, or access to be able to put that trail on there. We don't anticipate it to be an issue because the width is so small that we need to grab. I don't want to say grab, that we need to request from someone. But that's what we need to work on right now is some of the right-of-way easement situations there. Right now, it's all farmland, except for one or two farm homes on that stretch. So that would make a really big circular loop that a lot of residents in that neighborhood would be able to take advantage of. It should also be, I should also mention that administration is looking at immediately north of Grant Street on that lighter colored square in there, we're looking at residential housing in there. So there's going to be more residential housing in there, and quite honestly, all that park development fee money will help fund that section of the trail. But we need a developer to come in. They're still working with different developers on what may or may not be able to be put in there. There is some wetland in there. You can see some creekways and things like that. So it's just a matter of finding the right fit and developer that can make it work financially. All right, and then last but not least, even though it's not a trail, it's the Ashwaubenon Sports Complex project. That's the pass-through. There is some money left in TIF 4, and one of the projects that's on the table is with the two parking lots, and Chris is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. The north and south parking lot, they're nice. There's plenty of parking. Unfortunately, there's no pass-through between them. You got to literally, if you've never been there before, it's kind of confusing. One lot fills up, the north lot fills up very quick. The south lot is like half empty all the time. So how do you get from the north lot to the south lot? Well, you got to go like out to the east and then loop around on Layden and on to Fernando and kind of go in the back way. We want to blow up, kill two birds with one stone. We want to blow up part of that plaza that overlooks the softball area, which is a maintenance nightmare for us, especially with the snow that we just had, trying to maintain that. We want to literally cut 2/3 of it out because it's not even the main entrance anymore. People use the main entrance on the main floor. They don't walk up the steps to go up top. Most people go on the main floor. Some people still use those steps, and we'll still have that access. But right now, we're looking at one set of steps that goes directly down to the softball area, and it kind of fans out, versus having 3 separate sets of steps and railings, and we would need to fix the handicap ramp as well. That was installed incorrectly back in 2000. So we're working with Rettler on that. Rettler is the one that initially designed that park. They've got, we wanted to go with Rettler because it's going to save us money in the planning, because they've got all the stuff of where all the water lines and everything is already located. It doesn't have to be a third party that locates all that stuff. Everyone knows where all the electrical utilities and everything are. So they're going to be giving us 3 different cost options. Each cost option, has different types of features. It kind of goes up from basic to pretty nice to, I don't want to say extravagant, but there's 3 different levels. So those will be presented to us, and then if they fall within the amount of money that we have available, potentially in TIF 4, then that will start the process of bringing it to committees for discussion and recommendation if we move forward with it.
Rex, will that include any fixes to the parking lot, or will it be done in conjunction with fixes to the parking lot?
Fixes to the parking lot are a whole separate issue. The parking lot is 18 years old. They're starting, it's showing that. I have spent money out there every year to have crack sealing done, to have hot patches put down, to keep it usable without having a total reconstruction. And we can do that for a few more years. We'll be talking about that actually in the next couple months, because the next agenda item is working with more capital projects and expanding the budget projects, the capital projects which may need to be replaced in the next 10 or 15 years, just so everyone can kind of see. Basically, every playground is going to be listed, every parking lot, every major feature, so that the village board can see what items are out there. And parking lots at the sports complex are a big one, because they're definitely starting to show their age in terms of waviness and cracking. I mean, they're not falling apart yet, but they're definitely showing their age. No, this is separate, I guess. Bottom line, it's separate from the park.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, you never were one of the cars that went four-wheeling over from one lot to the
I
other.
know nothing about it.
Okay.
We're out there and make plaster casting of those tire marks and do some comparisons all the time.
Any questions on this? I mean, he's pretty thorough about everything he's explained here, so.
It's just, there's a lot of stuff going on with trails, and so I just wanted to keep you guys in the loop so you know what's all happening and what could potentially be coming on the pike.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's move on to 8D, review and possible action on PRF comprehensive plan recommendations for 2019 budget.
Well, a fair amount of you here on the board went through the last exercise, where we had a number of community meetings during the summertime, asked for feedback from the residents. I think we had 6 or 7 meetings out in the parks, actually, in 2013. I believe it was, is when we did this, and then we spent a number of months after that compiling our comprehensive plan and then coming up with our 10-year project plan. And so what's been discussed administratively is, again, and kind of refining the budget process by expanding all the different items that we need and when they would need to be replaced. As part of that, a lot of those projects are part of the corp plan. On top of that, we're already being asked for capital projects for 2019 to turn them in May. So we actually need to talk about those type of projects now, of what some of the priorities would be, at least on this list. And then I've got other things that are just normal replacement items. That's all the playgrounds and the parking lots and you know, things like that. Some of them fall in the corp plan, but others are more maintenance items, like the parking lots that aren't part of the corp plan. There's a difference between them. Some of them are the same, but some of them are certainly different. So bottom line, we need to come up with the corp plot projects for 2019. And what I've done is I've put together this chart, which we've used in the past. I've just highlighted a few things, did some red lines of ones that we've done already. Obviously, we're doing a fair amount this year. It's worked well for the planning process. But
Rex, didn't we install pathway from View to, at Smith Park on that one that says for 35? Isn't that on our plan this year?
It was submitted, but it was cut out of the budget. It was one of the few projects that was cut out of the budget at Smith. I'm going to say that should be, quite honestly, our first one again, because not only is it part of the corp plan, but it's also, Smith Park is one of our ADA accessible parks, where all aspects should be accessible, and that sidewalk would certainly make everything more accessible, especially for the people living on the east side of the park. So I'm just going to throw out my recommendations would be the Smith Park pathway. The lake sun shelters are going to be on my list again. I know we talked about the Argonne playground equipment would be next up. And
Where's that on the list?
that's on page 32. in the year 2020. But we can move that up a year. So those would be my top three as a starting point for discussion.
Argonne, Smith Park, and what was the third one?
The sun shelter
Oh,
at
okay.
Ashwaubenon.
Well, I don't have a problem with that because, I mean, two of those projects are right in line. I mean, you're going to be
Yep.
completing just about everything in the first 3 years of the plan if we do that.
Yep.
That's sad to say, it takes us this long to do it, but 3 years or
Well,
5 years to get the 3 years done.
like any agency, I mean, there's a lot of parks.
Right.
And if you want to make each one of them a park that the neighborhood is proud of and they go to and it's used as a gathering or focal spot, you've got a lot of stuff that goes in them.
Well, I think that
So,
when
yeah, you can't do everything at once.
when we remembered, when we went through this and we went and did all those meetings and did all the prioritizations, you can't argue with what we've got, you know, with those three projects that you had, because, or that you just recommended, because those are priority projects in 2013 when we developed this, and there's still projects that have to be completed. So, I mean, I don't have the only one that you could say about is the Argonne Park Playground, and, you know, why don't we just take the next one off the list, you know, but I don't know if I could support a path around Sherwood Forest right now.
Yeah, it's what's doable financially as well.
Right.
You know, one of the big things that I'd love to see, and we're starting to get, is for 2019, is having a splash pad and restrooms at Fort
Right.
Howard Park. Fort Howard is a busy park, and it's become busier and busier, especially now with the pickleball courts. That's where the majority of the youth soccer games are. The large field is rented out by Synergy Soccer for games, you know, and practices all the time. We're at that point, now we've got multiple porta potties there. We're at that point where we need to start looking at potentially a permanent restroom. And quite honestly, the same thing is happening over at Sand Acres. And I'm very reticent to do that over at Sand Acres because it's so busy, and we're going to be adding in more residential housing over in that neighborhood. So that Sand Acres Park is going to be even busier. But if you put in a permanent restroom, then it becomes even more busier because now you're going to have more daycares and buses that go over there.
Yep.
Because now you've got a permanent restroom. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
You need it, but if you put it in, it's going to become even more busy. Because it's a good park.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. I mean, if they're utilizing it, if they didn't use it and we put it in, it would be a different story.
A restroom, and part of why I'm hesitating with this, because we need to talk about a few things. A restroom, pricing back in 2008 for the restroom building, which has that small little area for the concession stand over at the sports complex, for the, up by the soccer fields, which we would need because we need, it helps, it's almost like a little storage room. The bids at that time, the low bid was $238,000. And that was in 2008. And that's just for the restroom. That doesn't even include a splash pad, which is another $100,000. So you're starting to get into a fairly large feature and amenity, and that's why I'm hesitant to start pushing any of those yet. I think it would be great for some of the neighborhoods to do that. But I don't know if we financially, I think it would be better to knock off some of these other projects before we start looking at some of the big projects.
Not only that, but we've done a lot at Fort Howard. If you look at the rest of the things on the list, we replaced the equipments there,
Yep.
replaced playground equipment, things like that. I think it's Argonne's turn. I mean, they're the oldest ones out there.
Yeah. So, again, those are my three. Are you good with submitting just three for, I don't want to say just three, there's a lot of other stuff going on in the village, so
I think
it's
if
not
we,
like this is the only thing that we'd be doing.
I think if we submit these three, that we should probably get priority on them.
I mean, I will ask if everyone could take a look at some of the other projects and see if there's anything else that would like added in. You know, a low-cost project would be to add at Aubinger Park, right there on the corner of Barberry and Marvell, there's a curb cutout that just goes into the grass. It'd be nice to put a sidewalk from there going up to the playground area and the picnic shelter. You know, that would be something that would be fairly inexpensive as well. I suppose that would be my fourth one, if I were to submit something new that would perk up that park a little bit.
Did you have something to add?
I just wanted to add, Mark, when you made that comment, the reason why we're asking for the capital projects now is because we're going to start preparing for the budget, and we will look at the budget as a whole instead of just individualized. So Park and Rec has had some things taken away from them, so we realize that they are due for some of the stuff that they've been asking for.
So do you want us to make a bigger list than that then?
No, I'm just saying why, I'm just telling you why
Sure.
we've been asking Rex to do this and all the other department heads, and we want your priorities of what you feel are main items that you need.
Okay. So how
And these
many
are just the-
dollars worth of projects would you like?
I don't know if we necessarily want a dollar amount of what you would like. What I would like to see is, what are your priorities? If you think that the Smith Park Trail is a huge priority, then that's what you should have as your top priority. Instead of throwing everything out there and then we pick it apart. We want to hear from Rex what you want. What are your priorities? So, little different twist on it.
Okay. The way you stated it with the sun shelters, is that number one?
Smith
No.
Park, number one.
Smith Park is number one?
Yep.
And then the sunshades?
Yep. Yes.
I would say just because that's been pushed off for the last couple of years, that certainly is appropriate.
And then the Argonne playground equipment.
Correct.
Then you want to put
Those are
number
the three
four,
that
is that?
those are the three that I talked about, but I mean.
Right, and then you wanted to put that path at Aubinger.
Well, I'm
Number
not gonna, I only am suggesting that because that's a low-hanging branch
Right.
with the cost. I mean,
I mean, so many of these are trails and paths,
yep.
these projects that we got on here.
People use them. I mean, and I know, I mean, if you take a look at a lot of our parks, and I'll be honest, I mean, they look the same as they did in 1975, 1980. You know, they might have a new piece of playground equipment, but it's the same thing. And what I'm trying to do is update them by having a little more topography in the parks, maybe building some berms, resting areas, sitting areas so people can sit and talk, gathering areas. If you take a look at some of the gathering areas we've put in, whether it be over at Clipstein Park or even at Sand Acres, the way how we have some of those benches set up, people go there and they meet their friends and they talk. And if they were built like we built parks 30 years ago, those opportunities aren't there anymore, and then people just send their kids over there, and the moms and dads don't go on their own. So some of the stuff that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to make it more family-friendly, more of a gathering spot, and trails play a big part in that. Do people need a trail to go from point A to point B? They know how to get over there, but it just makes it a lot more feature-friendly. It makes things more accessible for people of all ages and abilities. And people use them. If you take a look at some of the pathways that we put in at some of our parks, they're used all the time.
Well, and it's a lot easier to push a stroller on a path than it is over the grass and berms and so
Yep.
forth, so.
Even like with the Canterbury shelter, you know, you think, well, what the heck do you need a trail for in Canterbury? Because that's just a postage stamp of a park. Well, we're gonna try and put a trail in. It's part of that $50,000, I think, is what was budgeted this year for the shelter. Well, the remainder of that money is going to be putting in a sidewalk from the curb to the picnic shelter that's being put in. So that picnic shelter now is accessible for everyone. And that's almost what you have to do through the Americans with Disability Act, but I look at it, you know, it's just the right thing to do because it allows that piece of equipment to be used by everybody, you know, of all ages, and makes it easy to be used, so they're a lot more apt to actually go there and enjoy it. So,
Well, why don't we submit those for, is everybody okay with that, first of all?
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
The way we had it, or just had it? Does anybody want to see anything else at it? I was just looking at it, and if it wasn't a trail or a structure, I mean, a building, the next two things are basically playgrounds at Smith and Waterford. I mean, in 19 and 21 and 22 almost, so,
Yep.
I mean,
I would say we don't need Waterford yet. Smith would, you know, that,
right.
you know what I mean, that still has some good life in it. Smith has been around for a while, still solid, but it's getting near the end of its time.
How many sun shelters are we talking about putting up at Ashwaubenon Lake?
Well, it's a debate that we can talk about. I mean, you can do 3 smaller ones, or you can do 1 big one, or you can do 2 medium-sized ones. I'm kind of tending to go with the 2 medium-sized ones or 3 smaller ones.
I think you'll have more people using the lake if you have some more sun shelters.
Yeah, and that's why they're in there. It
Yeah.
seems silly when you think, well, I want to go to the lake and the beach. Well,
Yeah.
you think that people want to be out in the sun, but when
I
the
know.
when the parents know they're going to be there watching their kids all day long, especially if they got smaller kids, they like to be in those shaded areas.
Right.
So they're nice features, and people can bring in their own beach umbrellas. We allow them to do that as long as it's not windy to the point where they could be blowing away and causing potential concerns there. But, you know, as I said the last couple budget terms, you know, on a hot day, when we open those gates, people make a beeline to what we have there right now for shade. So obviously, that's what we want.
So do you want us to make a motion on those 4 projects or not?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, and then it's official, and then I can say that it's been, this
Okay.
is what the park board has recommended versus just discussed. Unless there's any other suggestions, either on the sheet or something that may not be on the sheet.
I'd like to recommend that Fort Howard pathway as a number 5. If it doesn't make it, at least it's on the list for next year for 2019. Or 2020, excuse me.
So that's coming off of Broadway to the playground area,
Right.
okay? That's number 5, all right. So right now, I've got Smith Park is number 1, Ashwaubenon Sun Shelters is number 2, Argonne Park Playground Equipment is number 3, the path at Aubinger is number 4, and the Fort Howard Park path is number 5. Does that sound
It's fine.
okay?
Don't want to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposals 1 through 5.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Wonderful, thank you. Hopefully, administration doesn't cut the heck out of our budgets here. I have to get one in there once in a while, Tori.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'll be interesting, because as I said, I mean, we've got a fairly large, there's a whole capital project list that we go through every year. These are the core projects, but there's another thing that Mary and Allison have asked all the department heads to do is really take a look at, again, we've got all these parking lots, and we've got tennis courts, and we've got this and that, and what a lot of times happens, and it's regular maintenance that needs to be done. You know, pretty soon the Ashwaubenon Sports Complex tennis courts, they're only going to be viable for about another 5 years before they need to be redone. That's a $150,000, $175,000 project. So we need to get that on paper so that there's no surprises for village board. You know, like, and it's going to move around. I mean, if something weathers well over the years, we can keep on bumping that down, but this is more of an expanded project list for all 23 parks and all the features or amenities that are in all the parks. So
Well,
it's going to be much larger than what we've ever had before.
These are projects now, I mean, new projects. What you're talking about is more maintenance and
Yeah,
that sort of thing that comes out of a different part of the budget.
correct.
Okay.
The playground equipment can cross both sides, but
Yeah.
most of the stuff in the corp are new amenities.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Now let's move on to 8E, review of Park Recreation Forest Department report.
Still working with the DNR and U.S. Fish and Wildlife on the NRDA GLRI grant. We just had a couple of meetings last week. So still working through a few things there regarding final placement of different amenities. Talked about working with Rettler already at the sports complex for that pass-through. Our summer, this is the March report, which we didn't have a March meeting, so I'll just go over that. Our brochures are out. Summer concert lineup is set. Easter egg hunt was held at Pioneer Park. That went over very well. Even though it was in a snowstorm and the eggs were getting covered up by snow, there were still a couple hundred people there, and it was actually pretty fun. If you saw any of the posts on the Facebook page, it was a good time. I'd like to thank the Ashwaubenon Lions. David and I did a presentation at one of their meetings about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, over at the district is where they host their meetings. And they talked about doing a donation to our department. And what they're doing is they're going to donate 7 recycled plastic picnic tables that will be permanently installed on the slab for summer concert viewing. They wanted to do that because they've been involved with our summer concert program for the last 13 years now, and they see the numbers and it's still continuing to grow. They thought that would be certainly appropriate. And they are also donating a new wheelchair for use at the community center. We just got that in about a week ago, and we're getting Ashwaubenon Lions, donated by Ashwaubenon Lions, stitched in the back. That donation is almost a $7,000 donation. So I really want to say thank you to the Ashwaubenon Lions. Community garden signups are going well. I know we're close to being sold out this year for the 50 plots. I mean, I guess I can talk about the weather, but I think that's all anybody's been talking about for the last couple of days, if not weeks. The weather is horrible. We get ball diamonds ready, and now we've got about 3 feet of snow on them, and who knows, drifts that are about 15 feet high. So I know the athletic directors were from the different schools in the conference. We're meeting today, trying to figure out how to salvage the season. I'm guessing instead of having home and away games, they're going to wind up having to cut their season in half. Certainly having a lot of double headers at the very least. Playing a lot of back-to-back type of games, on multiple days during the week. So we'll see how that works out, but I mean, as soon as we can get on those diamonds to get them ready, we will, but it's ugly right now. We had new bathroom partitions installed at Ashwaubenon Lake in the women's bathroom. That was a budgeted item that we just got done, getting those ready. We just installed an in-water basketball hoop at Ashwaubenon Lake. That was just put in last week before the snow. And we will be installing our frog slide this spring. The slab was laid last fall, that it's going to be resting on. So we're going to have some fun new stuff at the lake this year, which will be nice. Keep that looking fresh. Brochures are out. Bike and comprehensive plan. We had our community meeting. That's been updated, and we'll be going to village board next week. Well, the snow is going to have a little bit of effect on the village-wide rummage sale coming up this Friday and Saturday. All we do is coordinate it. It's not our rummage sale, so it's up to each individual home whether or not they will still be having their rummage sale with snow drifts on each side of the driveway. A lot of people have said they are. There have been a number of people that have canceled. So what we're going to do is we're just kind of collecting those addresses that we know have canceled, and we're going to be putting them up on our Facebook page, just as an FYI.
Last year, when they had that and everything, there was so many cars around and people walking, it was unbelievable. Now, when you take and you put that there with those snowbanks that are taking up half a lane on both sides, that is gonna be a mess.
I think that there will be a fair amount of people that do cancel. There will still be a fair amount of people that still have it. I mean, we can't tell them not to have it because it's still their rummage sale, you know what I mean?
I know this weekend, I think over in Bellevue's, I think Bellevue's is this weekend. Well, you can imagine what that's gonna be like
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. And so we've got ours this weekend. I think Waterford Park has theirs next weekend.
Yeah.
And then I think Sand Acres has theirs the weekend after that, 1 or 2 weekends after that. So everyone's kind of got their weekend. Unfortunately, we get the snowy weekend.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't
Think that
last
was,
weekend.
yeah, exactly.
What's that?
At least it wasn't last weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Learn to Swim is going great. The pool is going gangbusters. We've got 160, 170 kids all the time taking swim lessons. And then swim permits, open swim has been well attended on the weekends. We've seen numbers like we've never seen before in terms of open swim. The warm water pool during the open swims is the most popular thing. I mean, that place literally is at capacity on the warm water pool on open swim weekend dates. So that's going great. People are taking advantage of that. And then Tim is working on the Adoptive Park Volunteers tree planting program. We're planning on picking up a lot of trees this week already. That's been pushed back, so the weather's just pushing us back on a lot of stuff there. Just some odd things front and back. I guess I'll just ask if anyone, our stump grinder should be in this week. Not that we can find any stumps to grind. We'll have to wait a few weeks.
Good luck.
No, we've got a list of where they are. It's just, we're gonna have to wait till the snow melts now. Anyone have any questions on anything that's on here or not on here of what's happening in our departments?
I'd just like to bring up something that, a couple weeks ago, the community Cornerstone Community Center hosted the USA National Tier 2
Yep.
U18 hockey tournament. There were 36 teams, I believe.
I think only one was from Wisconsin, right?
One, yeah.
Yeah, so
I think there were 25 teams or maybe more, 20 states represented that were in the area. Mary did a nice presentation on the kickoff night on the Wednesday night. Just running into a lot of hockey teams over that weekend. It was really cool to hear all the feedback from how well it was run by Don Chilson and his staff at the center, and how well the families, coaches, organizations were received by Ashwaubenon and Green Bay. And in fact, more than once I heard people were planning on coming back in the summertime, family vacations. They just loved the atmosphere here. They loved the people, how well they were treated. It just went off really well.
Yeah.
Great.
They had 36 teams representing 33 states.
33.
So there was a lot of people here from out of our area, and I heard nothing but great reviews. Everybody loves Green Bay, and like you said, they want to come back and visit.
Rex. She wanted to come in. Oh. Okay.
What is it?
Dean's wife at the
Oh,
municipal
okay.
office.
Okay, that's wonderful. Good to hear some news like that once in a while. Anything else? Items for next agenda. Anybody got anything?
We'll just do the co-sponsored update again.
Yep.
And if I'll probably have worked a little bit more on that, the expanded master plan for park items, and I'll probably present that as well.
Okay. Okay.
Make a motion
Need-
to adjourn?
Second?
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, everyone. Actually, that pork thing went pretty fast.
Maybe call Jim.
Remember last year, we all
Yeah.
ranked them 1 through 4?
No,
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It probably took about